Welcome back to Book Break, and welcome to my tips on how to read more books over the weekend. Especially if you've got a long weekend coming up, as I do, I can't think of a better way to spend it than reading a ton of books. So in this video, I'm going to give you all of my tips for how to create the perfect reading weekend. So tip number one is just to think about whether you have a target for your reading this weekend. Is there a particularly long book you've wanted to read for ages and now you finally have the time to do it? Or do you have a series of shorter books that you want to get through and get them off your TBR? Have a think about that, but don't put too much pressure on it. If you're looking to do a really intense reading marathon, I do have a whole separate video that I will link to below on how to do a 24-hour readathon or any situation where you want to read as much as you can in a short time period. In this video, we are being more relaxed. We want to make it really cozy. So have a think about the books you want to read, but don't set yourself unrealistic goals. Tip number two is to find a few places around the house where you're going to do your reading. Maybe you'll read in bed for a bit, read on the sofa for a bit, read out in the garden if you're lucky. I find that stops me ever getting bored of reading if I'm changing my environment a bit. And tip number three is also to divide your reading into little sections. So maybe plan ahead that you're going to read on Friday night, on Saturday morning, on Sunday afternoon. Find a few little slots where you can do some uninterrupted reading, but know that you're going to have other breaks throughout as well. Tip number four, and this one is important, is stop reading when you get sleepy or tired of reading for whatever reason. Don't push yourself through and force yourself to keep reading just because you had it planned at that moment, because you'll probably just put yourself into a reading slump and not want to pick up a book for the whole rest of the weekend. So if you feel yourself getting sleepy, put that book down, walk away. And related to that, DNF books if you're not enjoying them. We are having a cozy, relaxed reading weekend. We don't need to force ourselves to do anything. Find something else you want to read. Tip number five is to have a book on you at all times throughout the weekend so that you can slip in a bit of reading anytime you have a moment or anytime the mood takes you. And audiobooks in particular are really good for this so that you don't have to physically carry a book with you everywhere you go. You'll always have your phone nearby so that you can listen to a book for a little while. Tip number six is my favourite. Try out some luxurious reading experiences that you don't usually have the time to do. So you could run yourself a gorgeous bubble bath, light candles and read in there, maybe with a glass of something yummy as well. Or you could treat yourself to staying an extra hour in bed in the morning. You've got nowhere you have to rush off to, so why not lie in bed reading your book? Or if you're feeling playful, you could make a pillow fort in your living room and read in there. Give yourself time to do something that's a bit of a treat. And finally, tip number seven for your perfect reading weekend is break up your reading with other book-related activities. So maybe FaceTime a friend who's read the same book as you and talk about it there. Or watch some booktube, or maybe watch a movie adaptation of the book you've just read or a book that you've got waiting for you on your TBR. I always find that these kind of activities really put me back in the mood for reading more. So those are my tips for how to spend your time reading more books and how to have a lovely cozy weekend while you're at it. I would love to know your tips because I plan to spend a lot of time reading over this weekend, and I would love to know if you have any advice that I should try out. I will also link here to the video I mentioned earlier on how to do a 24-hour readathon if that's more your speed, so you can click through to check that one out. And I'll see you next time. Happy reading!